Hello everybody and welcome back to another Kings of War Battle Report. I'm Visibly Riley, and this week we have Ratkin versus Goblins in a 2300 point battle of Raze. So first off, we have my opponent's Goblin army. It opens with 3 Horde of Rabble, followed by a Horde of Grogger's Lug Lads. Then we have a Regiment of Luggett Gang with the Mob Hup upgrade. Following that, we have 2 regiments of Mincer Mob, followed by 3 War Trombones, a Mob Hup Launcher, 2 Goblin Blasters, and 2 Wingets, both of whom with Bombs Away. Next up, we have the ubiquitous Groany Snark, followed by 3 Whizzes, one with the Edge Periscope and Host Shadow Beast State, the next with Inspiring Talisman and Hex, and the final with Sacred Horn and Veil of Shadows 2. Finally, last but not least, we have Grupp Longnail. Moving on, we have my Ratkin list. It opens with 2 regiments and a horde of Ratkin warriors, with the horde having the Scrying Gem and Plague Pots. Then we have 4 troops of Claw Shots, followed by 2 hordes of Nightmares, one with the Fire Oil and one with Blessing of the Gods. Then we have 3 weapon teams, a Broodmother with the Conjurer's Staff and Scorched Earth 2, a Warlock with Amulet of the Fireheart and Alchemist's Curse 4, and a Brute Enforcer with the Banner of Abbotshire. Finally, we have probably the best formation in the game, in Smoke, Mirrors, and Death. That involves 2 Shredders and a Death Engine Spewer. So just as a quick recap on what these things do, the formation, all 3 of these units gain Redeploy, the Death Engine Spewer gets Inspiring, Steady Aim, and of course Iron Resolve Tech. The tech units in the list are all 3 of the units in the formation, the Claw Shots, the Nightmares, the weapon teams, the Broodmother, and I think even the Brute Enforcer, so quite a bit of tech in this list. And the Banner of Abbotshire, just because we haven't talked about it before, grants an aura of Spell Ward, so 6 inches around there, -1 to be hit by spells. So I think an interesting list. Let's see how it works out. So let's go into the scenario, which is Raze. Raze is after rolling off to choose sides, place 1 objective marker in the center of the field. You then place 3 more objective markers more than exactly 6 inches away from the center line on their opponent's side of the field. You take in turns, blah blah blah. You can never remove the central objective or the objective markers on your own side of the table, but you get victory points starting on round 2 for controlling an objective marker on your opponent's half of the table, where you gain 1 VP and then you burn that objective marker, so you remove it. And then you gain 1 VP for controlling the center objective marker at the end of the game. So Raze is probably my favorite scenario in the base pack without any changes whatsoever. It is a decently dynamic scenario. I really like the fact that you are going to burn objective markers as the game goes onward. It makes it much more dynamic when you're playing. The only thing I really take umbrage with is that you have a round 2 scoring. I really think this should be at the start of second player's round 2, right? But anyway, I digress. Pretty cool scenario. Here we see where those objective markers ended up. I've deployed these ones over here. My opponent has deployed them kind of mirrored. And then, of course, 1 in the center. Now, a thing to remember about these deployments, generally you place, so like this objective marker is in the exact center of the board, meaning the center of the token, right, is the exact center of the board. These guys are actually deployed so they are to the edge of that 6-inch line, so that there's always 12 inches allowed between objective markers. It is a little bit different than you would normally do, but it's otherwise, just because of how the objective rule works, well, you kind of have to do it this way. So just as a quick reminder for that. But with that said, we'll move on to the terrain. First off, we have 2 height 6 forests, then we have 2 height 3 hills, followed by 3 height 2 obstacles, 2 height 9 blocking terrain, and 2 height 0 pieces of difficult terrain. I really like this one just because it's a height 0 under the hill, right? So it's not granting the hill additional height, but units that walk through here, right, unless they have Pathfinder, aren't allowed to march, and then are also -1 to be when they're shooting off the hill, but -1 to be shot back. And then if they have Pathfinder, of course they have, +1 Thunderous coming down this. So I think it's a neat thing. Of course, stacking terrain can always end in interesting ideas, with hills being probably the most interesting one to mess around with. But with that said, we'll move on to deployment, starting with the goblins on this left side of the table. So the goblin side, we start with the Mop Up Launcher back here in the corner. Then we have the first Horde of Rabble, followed by the first War Trombone. To the right of that, we have the first Goblin Blaster. We have the Whiz with Veil of Shadows and the Sacred Horn. Back here, we have the Horde of Luggets, whatever Grogger's mob is called, with the second War Trombone in front of them and the second Horde in front of that. To the right of that, we have a great example. You might want to pause when these show up later in the battle report. I'm not sure how many great pictures there are, but they're a really, really cool unit that my opponent has put together, right? Like, you can see it right here. This roller is about to hit this little goblin that's running. I absolutely adore them, and it will look great once these are painted in 20 Never. But in front of that, we have Groany Snark, Grupp, and in front of them, for some reason, is the Wiz with Host Shadow Beast. To the right of that, we have the third and final Horde of Rabble. And off to the right of that, we have the third War Trombone, the second Blaster, the first Wingit, the Luggets with the Mop-Up back there, the second Regiment of Mincers, and this is the Inspiring Wiz with Hex 2. And finally, we have just a Wingit hanging out behind the piece of blocking train. Always a good idea with your flyers, right? Especially now that the Wingit's got that decrease on their nerve, right? Their nerve got a little nerfed. So anyway, facing off against the lone Wingit, we have one of my troops of Clawshots, right? To the right of that, we have my first Regiment of Warriors. Then we have the forest of 1, 2, 3 more Clawshots along with one of my Shredders. This is after the redeployment, so this is where I redeployed the Shredder too. I think I just deployed them off to the right just to zone my opponent out a little bit. Playing the part of my Nightmares because I hadn't had them painted just yet. I have my first Horde of Nightmares right there. These are the elite ones. Behind them is the Brute Enforcer with the Banner of Abature. And to the right of that, we have my Death Engine Spewer. To the right of that, we have the second Horde of Nightmares. This one has Fire Oil, which doesn't do anything in this matchup. The second Regiment of Warriors, which are actually facing forward. They just they have a lot of spears there, so they don't play well with this unit in front of them. And then we have the Broodmother right here with the Conjure Staff and Scorched Earth. To the right of that, we have our first, second, and third weapon team along with my Warlock with the Alchemist's Curse. And then right in front of them, we have my Horde of Warriors with their Plague Pot and the final Shredder. Now, I will say I did bring the Scrying Gem in this game, which I rolled a 2, so I got the mean. So 3 units had to be deployed, which meant that my opponent's 20 drop list, with them winning the choice for tableside, ended with me deploying the final unit. So kind of nice there. And with that said, we'll move on to turn 1. So turn 1 ends up going to the Ratkin. I will say I've been moving around with this little Warlock. It's not inspiring, right? But sometimes you can kind of play with your opponent, off of their base knowledge where they're like, oh, there's a hero hanging out within 6 inches on a flank, right? Well, it must be inspiring. So like this unit's inspired. But not really in this case. I've just gone with a very light inspiring list with only 2 inspire, and both of them are hanging out in my center line and just letting the flanks deal with that break check if it happens. But anyway, so I march forward, I run on forward with my unit of warriors here, and then I just kind of lag behind with my weapon teams because obviously they can't at the double, so I can only go 6 with them. My Shredder was redeployed here. The idea is that I'm just at a range of this mop-up launcher, but I can fire shots into it, hopefully just kill it off real quick. This side of the table is a lot worse than my opponent's side, and it's because of this piece of terrain right here. There's a very, very large piece of blocking with 2 obstacles flanking it, right? And that's going to make it so it's very difficult to actually march and take space here. While on my opponent's side of the table, it's very open for the most part, right? They have hills, but they're not impeding their movement. And they have a forest in the center, but I also have a piece of rough terrain down there, or a forest. So yeah, it's the worst side of the table, and here's why, which is I want to maintain my battle line, so I don't actually get to run with my Nightmares turn 1. I just get to advance 6 and then maintain that formation, as you can see. And off here, yeah, this forest is a little bit better for the deployment because I put a hill directly in front of this one. So I end up putting, I still have some shots though, because I can fire into these mincers and this stuff in the forest, -1 to hit, of course, but still, it's okay. I do end up moving forward with this Ratkin Warrior unit. I was talking about it with my opponent throughout the entire turn, and then, we were I get a little distracted when I'm at a game store, so I actually forgot to move them, and right at the end of my turn, he's like, oh yeah, did you just want to move that forward? So I just roll this unit forward to 6 inches, and I don't turn them or pivot or figure out how I want them to face, right? I just move them on forward. So if you're wondering about that, because otherwise the Wingit can just fly over here, again, starting in round 2, so probably here and then here, and burn that quite easily. So I do end up moving that afterwards. And then I have this unit of claw shots just helping zone this Wingit out a little bit. And that's going to do it. So let's see what the shooting does. First off, the lone unit of claw shots fires into the mincers, doing 2 damage. Then all the claw shots, I think the shredder also fired at those mincers because it doesn't have another target, but it missed. So the 3 units of claw shots here fire at this weapon team, dealing 5 damage to it. Now that is only a 5 to kill it, rerollable, but it's actually kind of funny in this game. I rolled a lot of very high break checks on my first roll, but then I kept rolling a 3, right? So this is the first one of those. I get a waiver, which I'm not sure it's better than a kill, because I would have preferred just not to have to put any more shots into this weapon team later, but it is still kind of nice because my opponent has deployed abreast, right? So these units are touching, and since they're not nimble, right, they can't actually just like pivot back up, right? Because you always have to back up while wavered. So this blaster is a little trapped for the moment, but still, a kill would have been better. And over here, I fire my Warlock, which I have placed so 50% of its base is covered by this weapon team, but then when I fire out, I'm not going to be taking the cover penalty into this Wizard because my opponent has put it in front of the lines, and I'm like, well, I have to take that. I've Lightning Bolt 5, it's a long shot, but Goblin Wizzes are only an 8-10, I think. No, maybe they're a 9-11. But either way, I fire into it, I do 2 damage, and I don't get a waiver, but still, I'll take that. At least my opponent didn't just lose their Host Shadow Beast due to very poor deployment on round 1, so at least there's that. So I then fire my Shredder, and yeah, just 1 rounds the mop up. I think I hit with like 3 of those shots, so never know with a with a War Engine what it's going to do. But that's going to do it for turn 1 for the Ratkin. An okay turn, right? Like I've got a decent movement forward. I killed one of my opponent's threats, I wavered another one, and got some damage on a primary target. So I'm feeling quite happy with that. But let's see how the goblins are spawned. So first off, yeah, this is their side of the table is just a little stronger, right? So not only do they get to run forward to meet my warriors, they also get to run forward here. Now I will say, well, I guess we'll wait for turn 2 for that. This weapon team just goes onto the hill. I'm not sure I would do that, right? Like, what is it going to do? Get a couple points of damage onto the warriors? And I do look at Groany right here. I think that if you're going to move this unit onto the hill, Groany should be behind it, so hidden, right? And then you can just walk the weapon team away. Now Groany's on a hill for the height, so it can charge into whatever it wants. With where Groany ended up here, there's just no line of sight. So not the best placement there. And then over here, speaking of the War Trombones or any of these War Engines, I don't like deploying them like this, where they're very spread out. One, because there's really only one area that they can now all fire on, right? But secondly, you can see they're kind of blocking my opponent up, right? This one is blocking up these Luggets, which I personally think is probably bad for them. And then this one, of course, got wavered. But if you had just deployed them all over here, maybe one would be dead, right? I guess. I don't think I would be able to fire the claw shots into it. But even if it dies, right, it's only blocking up one area, which is sort of how I deploy mine, right? So I, rotate them around a unit or 2, but I make sure that they're not blocking me up too much, right? Like a little off center, basically. But anyway, the rest of the goblins just move forward as much as they can, except for the Wingits, which is another mistake I think that happens right here. My opponent is playing way too pensively with these guys, and it's something that I see a lot with a lot of players, that they're afraid to lose units. Losing units is going to happen, right? Like, sure, you don't want your Wingit to die turn 1, and in fact, when you can burn tokens, you especially want to protect those Wingits. But you could just protect them just as well by moving behind this Mincer unit. The only thing I could then fire at you with is my height 5 Death Engine Spewer, but that's, you're going to have cover and all that. That's a big order. But you do want this unit to be influencing the table, right? You want to force those issues, which you can see over here. The other winglet doesn't even move. This is a big mistake, in my opinion, because they could very easily just run behind this hill and be fully protected. And then the next turn be within striking distance of this token, so I cannot move forward. So I think that's a pretty big mistake with that. But otherwise, I like the Goblin movement. So let's see how their shooting goes, since there's no combat. We have the whiz here, I believe. Yeah, all the whizzes. Well, I guess the two of them. That's actually just Grupp. Fire into my Death Engine Spewer, but with a Spell Ward, none of them even hit. And then over here, the Veil of Shadows whiz gets that off, which is really good for Veil of Shadows there, just because I have all my weapon teams. I'm actually not running very spell heavy. So I'm going to be taking a lot of negatives here. So good spell to cast here. And that's going to be the end of turn 1 in earnest. No combat as of yet, but we'll see what happens in turn 2. So turn 2, first off, I charge in my Ratkin warriors into the front of the rabble right here, and I pop my plague pots. I will mention something real quick about this, because if you look at this hill, from my opponent's point of view, right, like the hill kind of like tapers off a little bit right there. And this is quite common, that when you're moving a unit and you see it from behind, you see that edge of the hill and you go, cool, I'm 50% on the hill. But from my point of view, right, like as we're seeing it right here, I can see that the hill actually does this, right? Which means that this unit is not actually on the hill, because less than 50% of it is actually on it. And I went, oh, so in my head, I go, well, I'll charge in here. Maybe this unit will flank me, maybe it won't. I don't care too much, right, because they're goblins. But with the TC, well, there's no reason to charge here at all. I would have just positioned myself to eat 2 front charges, pop my plague pots, and be done with it, because I'm going to have to shoot over here. But I also made this mistake because I was trying to quick play my turn, and I didn't do the math for Host Shadow Beast, or not Host Shadow Beast, for Veil of Darkness, until I'd already kind of started moving stuff around, right? And I didn't want to, pull stuff back at that point. But I end up going like, oh, obviously I'm not going to be able to kill a horde with stealthy right now, right? I have a fair bit of shooting, but I need to direct that shooting in a lot of places, right? So instead, I'm just going to go after these 2 primary targets, right? Get rid of the goblin damage and then deal with the rabble later. But that does make this flank charge, a lot worse, because I also could have blocked it, right? That's on me. But more importantly, I just didn't think it had TC at all. So if I had thought about that, I probably wouldn't have done this charge at all and just backed him up, protected my weapon teams, or at least 2 of them, and then just shot at the same targets and just gone, you can double charge me, because the amount of damage I'm going to do here is pretty minimal. So anyway, with that out of the way, I move forward a little bit in the center. Not the best pictures of my center line, but I move forward a little bit. I'm just out of charge range of the mincers. I'm going to try to get as much shooting as I can, although not at this Def 6 unit. If we go back a picture, the Veil of Shadows right there, this is just, this unit right here is just at a 9. But everything else, so like this unit, all of these things are all within, right? So I'm going to fire into this rabble real quick with my, what are these? Nightmares, because they don't have any piercing, unlike true boomers. So we're going to fire there, and then I see my opponent has left their Host Shadow Beast wizard with 2 wounds on it still, is hiding behind this rabble. This is a height 5 monster though, so the only negative I'm going to take, because they are also just out of range of Veil of Shadows, is the -1 for individual. So I'll take D6 plus 7 shots and just try to kill it this turn. And then, yeah, you can see this is where I ended up with that unit on the previous turn. Now, if I had, positioned this a little bit better, I wish I had positioned it to face like this, right, towards the winglet, but I actually compound that mistake because I didn't even just run them forward. If I was going to go straight forward, I should have placed them within 15 of this objective, so I could just run, right? Although, I probably should be. Maybe I just think I made a mistake here, because I could have just run forward with this unit, grabbed the token, and probably been out of charge range or charge arc of these mincers. Maybe that's why. Maybe I'm in charge arc no matter what. But if I'm not, that was a mistake. I could have just run forward, burned this token on my turn 2, and moved with these claw shots to block that anyway from the winged. But I do not in the end. I don't really remember, but I guess I could have measured this, and it doesn't look like I'd be in the charge arc to me, but maybe I was. Anyway, maybe I just didn't think of it. But that's going to do it for that, so let's get into the shooting. So first off, I fire into the whiz. I do 6 more damage, so not double ones to kill it, and of course, double ones. So still a bad rule. And not because it isn't dead, it's the second part, which is not only is this wizard not dead, so next turn I'm gonna have to kill it again. I've also done nothing to it, so it's not wavered, it's not disordered, nothing happens. So it can still cast Host Shadow Beast at its full, it can still, Lightning Bolt, can do whatever the hell it wants, which is just kind of a poor rule in my opinion. But I do like that it's alive. Over here, all my weapon teams fire into the blaster and the war trombone, killing them both, which I'm quite happy with. And here's the end of turn shot. I do a couple of damage. I actually didn't roll very well on this rabble unit, but it happens. And then I fire all this. I think I fired into the mincers, and I also didn't roll particularly well, but again, it happens. And then over here, I do a point of damage maybe. Who cares? And that's going to do it for turn 2 for the Ratkin. Let's see what the goblins do in response. So Goblin turn 2. So they get this flank charge. They take the TC, of course. I did point out to my opponent that they actually don't have it, but he was like, well, I could have just, adjusted them down a little bit to have it. And I was like, well, if you had done that, then I wouldn't have charged here. And at the end of the day, I don't really care enough to get into that argument too much. It's why it's kind of really important that you announce your intention with things when you're going like, yes, I have the TC here. Because if they had said that to me, I would have been like, you do not, you're not on the hill. But since this is not a tournament game, not even close, this is just a, let's get back into it, right? We have not played a lot of Kings lately for a few years. So I'm like, yeah, okay, this is fine. So take the TC flank charge. They charge into the front with the other unit. The Luggets are now they are actually 50% on this hill, which is a problem. They will do a lot of damage to me if they charge. And then these rabble, you can see here they have, I don't know. They have a couple damage, maybe 6. They just run at one of my units, and I'm like, well, I have a flank right there, so I'm not sure I care about that too much. And then otherwise my opponent just advances forward. I kind of like this division because normally I would say never leave space, like this much space between units, because people won't just plant a flyer there. But I don't have any flyers, so it's actually pretty good against this army to be doing stuff like this. Good placement. And off here on the right, the Winget finally moves. It is a turn too late in my opinion, but still it's moved itself out to mess around with this stuff. I do think that maybe I would have just gone turn 1 either here to the hill and then forward, or more likely just flown 20, because there's only one unit of claw shots that can shoot at you, and then the next turn you just hopscotch it, or skip over them. Leapfrog was the term I was looking for. Leapfrog behind them and then just throw grenades at them, or grenades over here. So I only have 1 turn to respond, but at least now they're a turn behind, but they're doing some movement, which I think is significantly better than none. So at least there's that. So let's see how the shooting and combat go. First off, we have Veil of Shadows going off again. Great spell in this matchup, so bad for me, great for the goblins. We have a weapon team firing into I guess I didn't grab a shot of it. They fired into my my weapon team, so the War Trombone firing into my weapon team, and don't manage to remove it, which is lucky because again I am not inspired over there at all. And my Horde of Rabble just get completely pasted. It was kind of funny because it's almost entirely due to the TC. Like this unit did nothing, and then this unit rolled all right, but rolled almost exclusively 3s to wound. So I'm like, damn, shouldn't have let it go. But obviously, you make your decisions, and I think this was it's good on my side too to kind of recognize, that I also need to be more clear with my opponent when I go, are you trying to have TC here, right? When I see them moving. But anyway, I lose my horde. And this is the end of turn 2, so none of the objectives were burned at all, but the goblins are actually in a really good spot here. I'm not sure what the Ratkin are going to do in response. Losing this horde, I mean, this side of the table's deployment, I just feel it's like it's so difficult because I'm trapped on this wall as well, right? So I'm just like, how do I actually get around? Like, how do I actually, really get my shooting into the fight? We'll have to see with turn 3. So turn 3 comes around. First off, we've got Grony Snark back here. I forgot to mention Grony Snark. My opponent's like, yeah, of course I'll charge. And I'm like, what? You can't see anything. So they're like, yes. And then they just fly 20, which I'm like, yeah, their turn 3 is going to be great, great for Grony, because I don't have the opportunity really to turn around with my weapon teams and burn them down like I normally would. I need to do something about these hordes, just because I lost my horde a turn earlier than I thought I would. So anyway, I'm just going to try to kill them off real quick. Of course, I get the flank charge onto this horde, and then I'm just going to fire with this, right? I'm going to chase this stupid wizard down. I only need to do 1 point of damage to it, right? But it has Veil of Shadows, it has individual, and it has cover now because it's a height 3 unit. So I'm on 7s. So it'll be d6 plus 7 half shots on 6s, but I only need 1. And I do need it to go off this turn because Grupp, where is Grupp? Grupp's here, maybe? No, Grupp's over here, I want to say. And then Grony's right here. So Grony could, say, charge into my Nightmares, and then you could move this Wiz forward and cast the 12 and just kill them with Grony alone, because Grony is a little overpowered. And then Grupp could also wreak havoc. So I need to get rid of that unit. And over here on the right side, as I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, I can just go burn this token. So I run forward, go to burn the token. I don't have any shots with this unit of claw shots, so I just move forward to make sure I'm within 3 inches of the objective so that this Winged can't just fly over there and burn it. Then I'm going to fire everything I have into these mincers, because if I can kill them right now, I think I'm in a pretty powerful spot. So we'll have to see about that. I do end up, I haven't moved my, the Broodmother just yet in this photo. I think originally I planned to, drain into this combat maybe, but I'm like, I decide, oh, no, that's dumb. I have Scorched Earth. So I think I end up moving over here to cast Scorched Earth here as well in the end. So let's see how all that shooting goes. Yeah, just showing off the combat. So I fire everything into this horde, and it's actually interesting because if we go back a few pictures, I have these guys positioned in such a way to maximize my shots, right? So this one has the worst number of shots because mainly it's at this unit, but it could also fire at the Luggate horde if it wanted. This unit can fire at the horde, this, like anything it wants. My Warlock can see either the horde itself or the Lugates as well, or the Mincers if I wanted with the Lightning Bolt or the Alchemist's Curse. And then of course I have the last unit here, which can see either this horde, which is already damaged a little bit, or if I need the extra pep right here. And in the end, it turns out that all 3 of these units fire into this because I keep rolling. I rolled a little poorly with these guys, but they are, they're in the Veil of Shadows, so it's not the best hits. And I just don't roll high enough to actually get a waiver. And I'm like, okay, so I fire all 3 of them. I end up having to fire all 3 in here. And then I also fire my Warlock, and my Warlock just fires a Lightning Bolt. First, hits with 5, wounds with 5, and I'm like, okay. So in the end, I end up killing that. I'm gonna guess all thanks to this Warlock. And over here, yes, I did do 1 damage to the Host Shadow Beast Wiz and managed to kill it off, so I didn't double 1 at that time. And in here in the center, yeah, I end up killing off this damaged horde with the Nightmare flank charge, which Nightmares are they're 18 attacks on 4s with Vicious and Crush 1, so not too surprised with that. And in fact, this one is also Elite, so 36 attacks on 4s with Elite and Vicious, and 3s to wound. And then you can see the end of turn shot for the Ratkin. This marker right here is showing off that I didn't roll particularly well again with my shooting, but everything has cover or veil in this list, so it's a little difficult for me to really rely on my shooting. But I do manage to get my Scorched Earth off, so this unit will be hindered on its next turn, which is why I'm not too worried for these guys, right? Like, I can't I don't know. Mincers are Mincers still, so they're, I think, 21 plus d6 attacks on 4s to hit, Crush 1, Thunder 1, and Brutal. So I have put them on 5s to hit with the main unit here, and of course strip the Thunder, but Grup's right there, and this unit's right here. So if all 3 went into them, I think that these guys are dead, but that's still pretty much my opponent's entire center, right? Can come and fight me if they want. While I think that this unit right here is just out of range of these guys. So we'll have to see what they can do with Goblin turn 3. Goblin turn 3. Yeah, so we have the Horde of Rabble charging into the flank of one of my weapon teams. We have Grony charging into one of my Shredders. We have the Horde of Luggets charging into this weapon team. I did end up, in previous pictures, you might have seen a gap where, Grony could have landed against my Warlock. If we go back right here in earlier pictures, I actually left that gap there, but before I started shooting, I was like, oh, I should solve that. So I moved forward just to actually block that off in the end, just so Grony can't charge. So anyway, Grony instead charges into this Shredder to kill it off. This weapon team just moves forward. I'm not sure what it's going to shoot at, because these Mincers go into my Nightmares there, and then Grupp plus these Mincers go into those Nightmares. My opponent just decides to swivel with the Wingit to fire at my Warriors. I think that this is a fine play. I would have preferred them move to be within strike distance of this token, just in case my claw shots move or whatever happens. But still, fire at the Warriors. They have pretty bad nerve here, and there's no reprisal, right? Like, I can't do anything about it. So we'll have to see about that. And let's go into the combats. So first off, we have this. Well, I guess the shooting first. So we have the Wingit firing into my Warriors. They only manage 1 damage and do not get the lucky waiver. Then over here we have this weapon team firing into my my Death Engine Spewer. My opponent does not like that thing. Manages 5 damage on it in total, including I think the Goblin Blasters fired here too. They do 5 damage to it, but I have Iron Resolve, so I knock it down to 4. And then over here we have a Wingit moving on to the token, or onto their token, and firing into my weapon team, dealing 1 damage. But thankfully for me, not getting a waiver, since I have no Rally or Inspire over here, so only needed the 7 once to waiver. The Shredder and then the weapon team and the other weapon team all die, as you might expect. And the Mincer here goes into my Nightmares, only doing 6 damage to them, which is pretty good. I think they actually did 7 damage, but again, I have Iron Resolve, so I heal 1 off because they do not get a waiver. And then up here, I take 2 damage in total from Grupp and from the Mincers. Actually, both damage were from Grupp, and then 1 damage came in from the Mincers, but of course I Iron Resolve that off. So that's gonna do it. You can see this token is showing off that I have weakness on me because that's what Grupp does, and we'll have to see how that turns out in turn 4. So turn 4, yeah, it's a little dicey here. I decide to move with my Warlock to try to kill off Grony Snark this turn. I still have my Amulet of Fireheart, so I can fire the Alchemist Curse and the Lightning Bolt at him. Just to, and I think that'll do it. That's going to be 13 dice on 4s and 3s to wound. I don't need a kill, I just need a waiver. And Grony is only at 12-14, so I'm going to go for that waiver right there. I do have this weapon team ready to just burn this this horde. I could get lucky, I guess, but I just really need to block off my Warlock from being charged, because I plan to either waiver or kill Grony there. I countercharge with my Nightmares into these Mincers. I had a flank charge with this with the Death Engine Spear, so I take that into the Mincers, and then I charge this unit of Nightmares, or countercharge, into Grupp, just trying to kill her off real quick. Although she does have Ensnare, so it's going to be 5s to hit, 4s to wound due to the weakness with Elite and Vicious. So not the best odds, but I do have a lot of shooting that I can plug into the Mincer regiment here anyway, so not too worried about it. I do move my Broodmother over here. I plan to drain life onto my Warriors, and I will admit 2 things here. I think I healed up my Nightmares, which is illegal. They're not within 6. I don't know. I was just I guess I'm still in like EOD and and Twilight Kin, ideas where I'm like, yeah, I can heal within 12. Obviously, you have to heal within 6. And secondly, I also forgot that the Banner of Aperture would make me -1 to hit. I feel like I forgot that. But I will say I ended up re-rolling that because I'm like, oh, shoot, I was 5s to hit, although I still make the mistake on healing, I think. And over here, yeah, so all my shooting's going to go into these mincers, try to kill them off. My warriors square off against the Winged. I don't really care how that turns out. Like, if the Winged, well, I don't care. I don't not care. Like, I hope the Winged just decides to fly over here and mess around with my claw shots rather than the warriors, because my warriors are now just looking to swoop in the backfield and burn tokens, right? Maybe mess around with these Luggets, force them to turn around. So that's going to be the plan. Let's see how it turns out. Yeah, first off, with my shooting, I easily kill off the Regiment of Mincers, finally. So, just a decent round of shooting. Got it in there. And over here, my weapon team does a couple of damage to the Horde of Rabble, but, nothing else. And then the Warlock fires into Groany Snark. I think I did 5 damage, which isn't the worst, right? Like, that seems pretty good, right? Maybe I did a little less than 5, but 5 seems around the average. But I don't roll the 7 to get the waiver. Again, I got the kill on the first roll, I think, and then rolled into a 3. So, but it was kind of a Hail Mary play anyway. And here is how the end of turn 4 looks for the Ratkin. You can see both of the primaries for me to burn are still up. I can't do anything about this one, unfortunately, but I can protect the other one under my nightmares here, which I turn to face towards the Luggets. Yes, it looks like they're down to 3 wounds, so I did cheat a little bit here, but what I could have done is just move this, right? Like, I didn't need to be over here either, right? I could have just been over here, drain on this unit, heal this unit, and still be inspiring on these guys. So, just a mistake by me. And you can see I didn't actually drain that well either. Oh, no, I didn't. Did I? 3? I don't remember. Because I also have Radiance of Life. I'm exactly... Which means I must be exactly 6 away from here, because there's no way or where they were at the beginning of the turn. Maybe that was 6 then. I don't know. Either way, it's fine. Let's go into Goblin turn 4. So Goblin turn 4, yes. The Rabble Horde move forward to burn their token. Groany charges into my Warlock, that's fair. Then this Wiz and the Winged are looking to just kill off this weapon team real quick. We have the Luggett Horde charging into my Wounded Nightmares. And then we have the Blaster, Grupp, and the Regiment of Luggets charging into these Nightmares. They're only at 1 wound right now. So I'm not sure... they shouldn't... Yeah. I'm not sure if I should be worried. I'm definitely worried, but I'm not sure if I die on the average here. Because I'm still 16-18, right? Because the Enforcer's also rallying. But that's Grupp with the D3 blast. It's the Blaster with D6 blast and Crush 3, and then the Luggets just have 20 attacks and Brutal. So yeah, I'm not liking my odds there. And then we have the Winged just deciding to fly 20 right past my line. I can't see it with any of my units, so fair enough. And here we go. So the Luggets and such decide to fight me. Yeah, just showing off all the combats. So we'll start with the Winged and maybe the Wiz firing into my weapon team. They do 4 damage, and again, don't get a waiver, so my opponent gets the 3 that time. Then we have the Luggets, Luggett, Blaster, and Grupp killing off my Horde of Nightmares. What's funny about that is the Blaster just did 14 wounds on its own. So, sometimes Blasters do that and make the other units irrelevant. But they kill it off. The Luggets then get a very good overrun. Because you can see the weapons in the top right of the corner here, the screen here. Those are my warriors, and if they didn't actually overrun, well, they could have overrun a little less, but they didn't get a big overrun here. I could just rear charge them, right? So good for them. And we'll move on to turn 5 because I forgot to take an end of turn shot for the last few of these goblin ones. So at the end of turn 5, you can see it kind of looks a little like this. That's 1 burnt for each side, so it's currently 1-1, although my opponent does have the center of the field, so it's a little bit more like 1 for Ratkin, 2 for goblins. So we turn around with this weapon team ready to burn. I can either burn Groany or the Horde of Rabble. I am going to countercharge with the Nightmares, they actually didn't die to the Luggate Horde. It looks like they're at 10 damage right there. That's after Iron Resolve and Radiance of Life, so they're probably at 12. So pretty good combat for them, considering the wounds they were on before. I also have a very weird flank. It might not look like it here, but that's just because I've been picking up and placing this model over and over and over again, because it was a bit of a weird one, because this unit was about here. It was in the flank, or not about there. It was, somewhere around here. But the point is, the leader point was in the flank of the Lugates, and then I could rotate and hit the corner, and then you pick up in place, and I fit perfectly to have more than a millimeter, right? It was not a corner-to-corner charge, and in the flank. So I just had that slight amount of extra, and clearing my Enforcer, which charged into the weapon team, and Grupp, who's somewhere back here. So anyway, there's that. And off here on the right, I am going to end up, I think, moving this unit because it doesn't... No, that's right. I want to shoot everything at the Luggate gang right now. Yeah, that's right. So we're going to go for that. I could have moved the Shredder because I don't think it has any shots, but I decided not to in the end. And then I run with the Warriors because I've gone 12. Next turn, if no one comes around, I can just move 6 and burn a token. So we're going to go for that. And let's see how it all turns out. In my shooting phase, I do go for a Drain Life as well, I believe, on the Luggate Horde. And I do all right. I heal some of the wounds off. That you can see these guys are down to 7, but I do manage to just kill them, right? What's funny is that this flank just doesn't do anything. The Nightmares just went wild and just wrecked that Luggate gang. So good for them. You can see the Warriors have rotated a little bit here. And here's the end of turn 5 for the Ratkin. Yeah, so Grupp is somewhere back here. I'm not sure where. Maybe right where this wound dial is. But Grupp's back there. I managed to kill off this weapon team. I'm sorry, War Trombone. I fired into Groany Snark. I think now Groany's on 5, so I must have rolled pretty poorly with my Warlock before. Or, not that poorly. Just not well, or average. But I did fire into Groany here. I got him up to 5, but that's not enough to get a waiver. And then I'm just gonna have to stare down the rest of this field. This is gonna be a rough one, right? There's one turn of grenades, and again, grenades are just a high variability shot, right? It's 3 shots on 4s, D3 each, Pierce 1 with Vicious, and then I'm Def 5, but I'm only an 8-10 nerve. So we'll have to see, and you can see I did end up running. Yeah. Okay, so I did end up turning and moving one of my claw shots out of the way so I could fire with the Shredder, right? Seems better at the Lugates to have the Shredder there. I really wish maybe it just wasn't possible for me to move within 3 of this, because otherwise I feel like I definitely should have done that and gone like this. It's impossible to burn this token this turn with your Wingate. So anyway, that's unfortunate for me. And we'll move on to turn 5 of the Goblins. So first off, beginning of turn 5, they do 2. The Wingate here does 2 damage to my Claw Shot troop and rolls the 8 to kill them. So unfortunate for them. But fortunate for me, these guys, you can see, I think this says 12, but that's not right. They are actually at quite a few wounds, and my opponent gets their double 1 of the turn. And that shooting all came from, the remainder of my opponent's shooting, which is mostly the Wingate and the Whizzes all fire here. And then Grupp, that's Groany Snark. Groany and Grupp charge into my Death Engine Spear after 2 flanks going. No, that's right. Groany's now at 7, so I guess I did do 5. Anyway, so they charge in there. Groany alone just kills me because Groany's broken. But anyway, that's that. Yeah, just a better picture of it. I guess I got Grupp up to 5. And we'll move on to turn 6. So turn 6, because again I don't have pictures of the goblin end of turns. There is still an objective marker somewhere around here. Then there's this one, but these rats are about to burn that. There's one back here on the hill, and then there is the center objective, right? So my opponent also turned this horde of rabble. The idea is they can on their turn 6. They can run forward and then charge here on turn 7 to burn that last token, and then also shimmy over here and maybe even get within range of the center. So that's going to be their play. Although, again, I can just block them up. Like I have other units over here that can stop them, so I'm not too worried about that. What I am worried about is this Wingate. Wingate has to go, and I did have a double charge due to the double 1 here, and of course the Enforcer had a flank charge. These guys aren't too great. I think they overran one before to get off this this wall, so they'll get in there and do a couple of damage. But more importantly, it just gives me a chance to get to and burn this token. So that's what I'm going to go for, is burning all the tokens this turn. And then I place my my Broodmother. Now, I feel like this is not her final placement because I'm going to try to burn down one of these guys. They're way more important. But maybe I just go, my claw shots can do that, and I'm just going to try to kill this whiz while I'm at it. So, speaking of claw shots, yeah, they're just the 2 claw shots here and the Shredder are going to fire at Grupp and Grony, trying to do a wound, get at least a waiver, maybe a kill. And then I have 1 unit of claw shots I can fire at this Winget. We'll have to see about that. I'm not betting on anything there. But yeah, and then I had the 1 charge. So first off, I think a point of damage with my weapon team onto the Horde, and then I get a boxcar waiver. So double ones and then boxcars. They're not exactly equal because double ones is significantly worse than a boxcar is, but still pretty good. Over here, yes, I do manage to kill off the Winget with my remaining nightmares. I overrun with my Enforcer and I get within 3 of the objectives, so I'm just going to burn that off. And at the end of turn 6 for the Ratkin, I have burned this token, I have burned this token, and I have burned the one that was over here, so it is currently 3 points. My opponent has burned 2, so it's 3-2. And then so this Winget, it's not marked because my opponent is real fucking lazy about putting out their marks. But I have actually wavered it right here, so that's going to be unfortunate for it. So my opponent has 1 whiz, 2nd whiz, right, and then a weapon team available for them on their turn 6. And I don't have pictures of it, but I will talk through it a little bit. So they go, well, I can kill off the nightmares, I guess. They try to do that, get a couple of damage onto me, but not enough to even get a waiver. And then they can't actually get to the center while I can just pivot with these warriors and take the center, right? So I think maybe the whizzes fire at the warriors then, right? But the weapon team couldn't get in range. But yeah, they try their best, they don't get it, and in the end, there is no turn 7, so that'll do it. So it's a very tight game with the end result being 3-2, which I'm pretty happy with. It's a good game, good list. So conclusions and list discussion. We'll go through the Goblin list. I like this list a lot. I think that maybe I would swap the Mop Up on the Luggett gang, because 10 points, like, they could just have a better item. Find 5 points and they can have the Helm of the Drunken Ram, which seems good for them, or even J-Boots, which would be great. But I would just swap this. Like, even if you only have 10 points, just give them Brutal. Or they already have Brutal. Give them, Meat of Madness, right? So that way they are speed 5, so they charge a minimum of 12 inches with their wild charge, and then they charge, a max of 14. So I'd be into that. I think that the Mop Up is a great item, but you do have a Mop Up launcher, so you're probably just gonna fire at your Luggett Horde and then fire at your Luggett Regiment, because they'll probably need the damage output, and then at your Horde later. So I think but that's really my only thing that I look at and go, I don't like that at all, right? The rest of this list is great. It's also missing 25 points. I have no idea what they are. The only thing I know it isn't is the Headstrong on Grony, because I asked about it. But whatever that 25 point item is, right, like, it's probably fine. It's probably on the Mincers, right? I would say getting the Mincers Pathfinder or Terrain Mitigation would be great, right? Like, again, J-Boots and Potion, the Caterpillar, would be strong, or even the +1 unit strength maybe would be pretty good, because they're only 2, right? But yeah, this is a strong list. It's great. I'm not the biggest fan of the Edge Periscope Wiz for Host Shadow Beast. I much prefer the Crown of the Wizard King to get the +6 inches. Giggity. But still, Edge Periscope is great. All these things are good. So yeah, I don't really have any anything to say. It's a good list. On my Ratkin list, this is a change from... I basically just took the 2 hordes of shock troops and replaced them with nightmares. I do think that I'm getting a little too shooting in this in this list. Like, it's kind of getting in its own way. I don't really have the combat punch, and I do think the shock troops are probably better, the 2 hordes of them. But I want to try the nightmares out. They do have really, really good synergy with the formation, right? Which I'll probably always be running. So maybe, you know, if you're gonna run the nightmare version, you can bring this and then kind of dial down on the weapon teams a little bit, right? Like, that could work. I just love weapon teams, so I'm not gonna. Broodmother, of course, is money. Scorched Earth is a good spell for the Broodmother, I think. And then the Warlock, I took this on suggestion from another person in the After Dark chat, and I do think it's a really solid unit, right? Having Alchemist Curse 4 and Lightning Bolt 5 is a dangerous caster. Still, I took out the Tangle to get this, and I just feel like the Tangle's better. Having Aura Fury for my Nightmares would have been very strong. Or even the Warriors, right? Aura Fury is just really good. And then having the access to Bane Chant, still having Fireball for when I need to do damage, and also having Weakness when I want it. I just feel like the Tangle is a little bit better. And I probably need another Inspire in this list, and it wouldn't hurt to have a unit strength. So I think this Warlock's great, but maybe not the best fit for this list, right? So that's going to do it for the report. I hope you guys liked it. And until next time, bye.